how do we change the world? How do we catalyze this shift? By creating awareness of what's possible. That's what our whole thing is all about, is awareness that we can have the Garden of Eden. We can have pure joy and abundance everywhere simply by doing what's best for us as individuals. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Matthew Britt. And together we are going to share with you the solutions to all of the world's biggest problems. And I know that that is a mind-blowing concept, but we're going to blow your mind. This podcast, this show will empower you to see past your limiting belief systems towards the actionable solutions that will change our world, my friends. Matthew, what do you think?
Jim, I'm so grateful to be here. So excited about getting this show kicked off. We are really going to inspire people to make change towards abundance and freedom and just love and getting along. And, you know, we all basically want the same stuff. We're being divided by some junk, and we're going to get through it. We're going to get through it, and we're going to bring the right people together, and it's going to be so exciting.
Oh my God. So I'm just getting all these amazing notes. I don't dig into the shit no more, the problems of our world, because I already know. I've been studying this for 15 freaking years. We know what's happening. We know that there are a group of wicked people. You know, some call it evil, some call it ignorance, just whatever it is, psychopaths that are miserable. These are miserable people, and their only thing in life is to control the mind and the energy of the slave, of their asset, right? And so our duty, our joyful obsession is to wake people up past being a slave, past being stuck in this wicked consumer economy. Now, I'm a consumer, and it's not about being a consumer. It's about being controlled. It's about having our minds controlled. Goethe said, none are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. My friends, when we finally say, holy shit, we have been slaves to these ignorant psychopaths, and we recognize the truth of the matter, and then we step into the mindset of freedom, that's when we can earn and claim our freedom. And then why do that? Well, that's what this show is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and people don't even realize how early this programming begins in their lives. You know, I have 2 young children right now, and you can see it in the shows and in the books and in the things that are talked about. The programming begins early and it carries on throughout our lives. So we're here to pull back the veil, give people the tools to free their mind, empower them to be more fulfilled, live better lives overall based around freedom and abundance. The possibilities are really limitless. Nature has provided us all that we need. And I'm so thrilled that we get to have these conversations with these incredible people who think, act, behave, empower, just like us.
Yes, in a freedom way, right? And you said, pull back the veil. That's a lot of what this show's about, is about exposing the veil. We are going to help initiate the apocalypse, right? Which means lifting the veil. Thank God for the apocalypse. This is the time we've been waiting for, the time where humanity rises. We are in the ascension right now.
Yes.
We are in this situation where we can feel it. Time is changing. Things are changing. The amount of presence in those of us who are awake and those of us who are waking up. I have so many good friends that I've been talking to about this for about 15 years. And 15 years ago, I was the guy that people would say, Jim, we'd like you to come to our party, but please don't talk about Building 7. Please don't talk about this shit. And I'd be like, oh, come on. Okay, I won't. Then a couple drinks in, I'm like, hey, have you heard of Building 7? Shit, here we go, right? Because I believe that's my ethical kind of duty to talk about this, you know, and it's fun. I have fun with it, right? What I have learned is when you come at something with an energy of fear or scarcity, then you're going to be basically the purveyor of fear and scarcity. And what good does that do for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my world? It absolutely doesn't do good. It's the opposite of good. It creates more fear, and fear is the most ultimate control tool of the psychopaths, of evil, right? There's nothing to fear but fear itself, false evidence appearing real. When we recognize that we are spirit, that we are God having an experience with ourselves, having what I like to think of it as a divine game, right? Or an adventure, right? When we start centering into who we truly are, that's when from there we can do anything.
Yeah. The fear is such an incredible controller, right? And how people will give up their rights to feel safe when the fear is strong enough. And, you bring back that September 11th stuff and the changes that went on in airports and all of that stuff. And you saw how easily people complied with everything because they were afraid, and their mentality is, I'm doing it for others so we can all feel safe. And I understand, I want everybody to be good too, but we can't let those fears control us into places where we know it's not serving us and serving humanity. We got to shake that out. We got to be courage, love, leading with that positive energy, because that is why we're seeing this awakening. It is why they're now trying so hard to instill more fear, because the internet's gotten away from them. The truth is seeping out in every way. And now that it's out there, they got to press harder in order to get that control back. But we're not going to let them.
Did you see yesterday the Georgia Guidestones were destroyed?
Yes, big one.
Shit is happening, man. I mean, all these new changes at the court level, which I had no faith in, and I still am very skeptical about those people. But the point is there's things happening, and they're happening now, and they're happening fast. Yeah. Another thing, I did a post yesterday about fear. Fear is a contraction of the spirit. It's a contraction of creativity. We cannot have a solution when we are like, this is a fearful thought, and this is a fearful thought, and this is our mind, right? And these fearful, concerned, worried thoughts are grinding away. And that grinding creates dis-ease, which always turns to disease. So fear is not logical. It's only logical as a catalyst for awareness. And then, so that's why a lot of people they're living in fear, and we get to this rock bottom place of, oh my God, what are we going to do? Oh shit. And then all of a sudden it breaks down the barriers, the belief systems. That dis-ease is the body's way, the mind's way, the heart's way of saying, wake the F up right now. And then all of a sudden, that's what rock bottom is so beautiful. The thing is, for some people, rock bottom is death. For other people, it's laying in a gutter. For other people, it's like, oh, I don't feel that good right now. I wonder why. Oh, that's why. Because I've been thinking about the end of the world and how everything's going to collapse, and I'm not going to have any food, and I'm not going to be able to protect my kids. Oh, shit. Okay, wait a minute. That's the wake-up call, is saying, oh my gosh, catch yourself immediately whenever you start feeling this feeling of dis-ease. The emotions are the gateway to the new idea, to the new question that will lead to better things. Yeah. So the most important thing that I've learned for myself is being aware of how I feel, right? Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. That is the way towards freedom of society in every way, right? Instead of this thing where, oh gosh, we got to suffer and we got to worry about shit. No, let all that go, right, buddy?
Yeah. I love the emotional guidance system, right? It really is that. It gives you indications all the time on what's the best path forward. And as soon as you feel that dis-ease and the poor feelings, you know it's time to get into a better place. And I love how you do it. You take that breath, close your eyes, you center yourself. That is very empowering. It is a chance to feel the feelings in our busy lives, which most of us were so distracted, so many things going on. It's so easy to just let those things fall to the wayside and not pay attention. But awareness is a key component to allowing that change and shift to begin to happen. Once you have that awareness, you can catch it, right? You can catch the feeling of that and pause and slow it down and reset, get going again.
Absolutely. Reset. And then for me, the next piece after the catching of the feeling is a new question, a creative question with intention. because, affirmations, they're fine. Like I actually don't feel very strongly about affirmations one way or another anymore since I learned about creative questions, because questions are infinitely more powerful. So instead of the affirmation, I am centered, I am secure, I am this or that, say, why am I so centered? How did I become so centered? Oh my gosh, how did I become so aware of all these things? When we ask a question, our brains are very much like computers. And when we ask the question, the computer starts giving you answers. And those answers lead to the actual reality of it. And the other thing, then the next step for me is I create perceptual filters in the reality, right? So belief systems, BS, bad science, and bullshit, they're all different layers of perceptual filters. So in other words, most people's perceptual filters are programmed. They're literally programmed by the people who control your mind into your psychology, right? It's marketing. It's the saying, oh, if you don't wear this particular type of cologne, or if you don't drive this particular car or wear this particular shirt, you're just not good enough. You're not going to have sex. You're not going to have a good life. You're going to be broke, right? And that's a program. You go, oh, shit. Oh no, I don't smell good enough. Then I have to go buy something, right? That's oftentimes toxic. Like if you haven't seen the show Stink, it's like gives you the chills. Like that shit that smells good is poisonous most of the time, right? Unless it's actually made by nature. So the next thing is to create these perceptual filters with intent. And when we do this, like my main filter out there is the question, how can this particular situation serve humanity? And how can we integrate this? For instance, I'll give you so I was at this 4th of July event where we declared our freedom, and we'll get more to the details of that. But at this event, we were hanging out with these epic artists, like Snow Raven and Johnny Buffalo and all of these, and Rob Lenfesti, these singers. If you haven't seen Snow Raven, go on YouTube and check this woman out. Mind-boggling artist, beatboxing, which I never even heard of before. I'm sitting in this little circle then after these events, and all of these epic singers and artists and musicians, and we're in this little circle singing. And I'm just witnessing this magic all around me. And then my perceptual filter that I created is, how can we integrate these incredible people, these talents into the freedom narrative of our society? How can we bring them in? And then the answer, when you create those filters, was obvious. Have them basically put their talent to the intent of helping to free the minds of humanity. And then it goes deeper and deeper and deeper, which we'll get into. What do you think?
Yeah, that's so right. Helping them shift their paradigms and belief systems, and then moving them towards taking that action and use their talents, use their voice, use their, say God-given value, and share it. It inspires every time. As long as you're acting with the right intention, you're thinking about things in the right way, taking the action wherever possible, and doing that reset whenever you catch yourself going down the junk path.
Absolutely. And then this whole idea of our mission is to catalyze a shift in consciousness leading to a freedom mindset for humanity. So then the question is how, right? Because that's a big freaking deal. How are we going to change the world? Well, we're going to integrate and collaborate with all of the different artists and talents and influencers out there. And then we get into the 4th of July event. I mean, the people that were represented when I put the call out and I said Foster Gamble and Joel Salatin and David Holmgren and Paul Check and all these amazing people. I said, would you like to be part of this? You know what? It blows my mind. But yet it's so logical, is they all said, absolutely, we would love to be part of this.
Well, it like attracts like, right? These people that were there are already thinking like us. They want the freedoms. They believe that's what we all truly deserve. And they're happy to leverage their voice and their platforms to ensure that it gets out there, that message is spread, and that, again, we inspire that shift in consciousness. And we know collaboration is key, right? It's not about competition. It's not about I have to have this and you don't get to have that. It's we all get to have this abundance that's available for everybody. It's not anything that we have to choose one over the other. And because of the awareness of that, we see it all around us in nature. We get to now joyfully express the possibilities to the world, and knowing that deep inside us, it is the way forward. It is the light. It is the thing that every one of us, I think, feels. They feel something is wrong. They can tell that stuff is not adding up. They may be still going along with it, but they can feel something's not right. And it's up to us and you out there as guests that are watching this show to take that message to the world in whatever way you can. You can always count on us to be inspiring in the best way we can and to provide you with the best experts and resources. But bring it. Show everybody else what's there. Come play your A game every day. We all only have one shot here at this time. So let's do what we can for the future of humanity.
Yeah, let's win this time, right?
Win this time.
I love competition. I've changed my mindset around competition significantly, where like I was a wrestler and I was hyper competitive when I was in my teens and 20s. Yeah. And then I started, now I'm a hyper competitive as well. But the difference is I'm not competitive externally. I'm competitive internally. Like if I don't do well on the tennis courts, for instance, I'm not pissed off at the guy who just beat me or the gal who just beat me. I'm more pissed off at myself. I'm like in the moment, right? And it never lasts because that doesn't do any freaking good. So I'm like, oh, I did, shit, right? But it's a different way of thinking. But for those, including me, who are competitive, that's an energetic thing, right? Let's turn that competition into the ultimate competition. We are in, if you want to look at it from a competitive point of view, the biggest competition in the history of humanity right now. Yeah. It's good versus freaking evil. Like that's really the competition that we're in. So how do we win this competition? I ask myself. Well, when we catalyze a shift in consciousness leading to mass adoption of a freedom mindset, we win the competition. When we collaborate with each other, when we team up and add all of our beauty, our wisdom, our talents and value, and we inspire, that is the win. You know, my favorite quote, Victor Hugo, there's one thing stronger than all of the armies of the world. And that is an idea whose time has come, not a new idea. It's an old idea. It's the idea of enlightenment versus government, right? Govern is to manage or control or steer, and mente is mind. Enlightenment is the win, is the way that we beat and defeat evil. And then what's going to happen next? Holy cow, that gets a lot of fun when we think, okay, when we overcome this wickedness, and those of us who step into our spirit and let go of the fear and live in true faith and courage, we are going to make it. The ones who don't, aren't. So then the question is, what's next for those of us who make it, right? And of course, we want to bring our families and our friends in because we love them, right? Yes. I love my neighbors. Some of them I don't see much and I don't really even know, but I know that it's best for me to love out of so many good reasons, including selfishness. Right? Yes, and this is something that the commies and the wicked people who want to control your mind, who say, don't be selfish. Give me all your money. Give me all power over you. If you don't do that, then you're being selfish. Give me power to completely control your life for the common good. F off.
Yeah, exactly. F off. All of it. I agree, man. That kind of leaves me speechless there because it is just such a profound shift in the way forward that we're definitely not exposed to. We're not taught about any of this on purpose. They really want to keep us dumbed down from as early age as possible. And if you're in the West, where we have the luxuries and the consumer-driven mentality, it's focused on that, right? Drive, always keep up with somebody else. But if you're in a developing country, you don't have access to that. So you're just worried about my next meal. You're not even thinking about some of these possibilities that are here. But because of what we are aware of now and the connectedness in the world, everybody is rising up. They are all feeling this enlightenment coming. They can feel this good and evil battle. you're seeing it happen. You know, for example, when we look at the WHO and some of their plans there, who shut that treaty down? It was the African countries.
Yes.
It wasn't the West. It was the African countries.
Yes.
Right? Because they are like, we have been abused by you for so long. We're out of here. We don't trust what you're trying to tell us right now. And we're not moving forward with this. So go away. Right? Thankfully.
That's so freaking beautiful. Oh, gosh. You know, I lived in Africa with the Maasai for a while, and they are such beautiful people. They have not been mind controlled, but yet when I was there, you could see the changes starting to come in. You could see the wicked thought process starting to come in about how they should be. When people from anywhere in the world go to other places in the world and say, this is how you should live. Oh my God, that should be the first sign. In fact, there are some cultures who literally say no to that. And they say, get out of here or we're going to kill you, right? It's just amazing how this whole system goes and how the wicked always want to rise to the most ultimate power. That is the base, the foundation of evil is this idea. They live in such pain and discomfort, and then they get these glimpses of power, and they're like, "Oh, I need more power. I'm going to control the world." And then they create this narrative. The ultimate power in their wickedness, which is really force, is I'm going to depopulate. I'm going to kill. That's the ultimate wicked, evil power, right? So then we step back from that and recognize that. In fact, this is the thing that I've had the most conversations about. And this is the thing that took me longer to learn than any other thing. Like when I first heard Building 7 went down, which very few people even know about, check 9/11 Building 7, which has been scrubbed. You got to go on DuckDuckGo to even find it now, right? Because it's been scrubbed from YouTube. It's a 46-story building that fell into its own footprint at free fall speed on 9/11 at around 5 in the afternoon. The BBC was reporting on the collapse of Building 7, saying that it had already fallen, while Building 7 was still standing in the background, and it did not get hit by a plane. Right? It was demoed. And all the demo experts say, oh, of course it was demoed. Right? That was, for me, the smoking gun. That was the one that I said, there's no amount of logic, there's no amount of anything that would make that possible without a demo. Now, how long does it take to set up these demos? Months. It's an incredibly meticulous thing, right? So even the people, and this is so funny, I'm at some of my buddies' house who would not be, they were so controlled in their mind. I would show them the video before it was scrubbed off YouTube. You can see it going down. I'm like, is that a demo or did that just collapse because, of fires or something? They're like, well, of course it's a demo. What? And they look at me like, why are you even asking, Jim? What's your point? Because they knew I had a point. But they were, and I said, okay, did you know that fell at 9/11? The BBC reported on it and it was still standing in the freaking background because all of these entities are together, right? They wanted to get the scoop and they reported on it knowing it was going to happen before it happened. Which I just find hilarious. And then my buddy Danny, when he sees it fall, he's like, yeah, of course it was a demo. I said, oh, well, how long does it take to set up a demo like that? And he's like, what are you talking about? Well, maybe, I don't know, a few months or something. Exactly. Well, did you know it fell at 5:40 on 9/11? And it was a demo. And then he retracted his statement.
Of course. You got to backpedal at that point, right? Can't be, right?
Yeah. He's like, holy shit. So the point with that is when I was first told by my buddy Brian Hickok, a Wild Bill Hickok's relative, who was a partner of mine here at Gulf Landing, he said, Jim, these people are evil and they want destruction. I'm like, no, because it's bad for them. Like that just doesn't compute in my mind. I was not aware yet of this idea of this power that these people feel when they destroy things. Like that's their thing. And I just thought that was so interesting. So anybody out there listening and really wondering what the underlying thing of this is, okay, there's the word live, and then there's the anagram, evil. Right? I like looking at it in simplest terms because it helps relate. It's the opposite. Live and the opposite of live. It shouldn't be good and evil. It should be live and evil. Right? These people have an evilness to them where they actually want death. And this is, by the way, very easy to see. When you look out into the world as to what they do, they are the poison producers of our world. Anything that says side on it, pesticide and herbicide and genocide. That's what these people have been doing. And it's right out there for everybody to see.
Yeah, it's so prevalent. The poisons are everywhere. The same people own all those big companies that are doing it. The awareness now it's so front and center because, like I said earlier in the show, the internet has gotten away from them, right? The internet, the truth is starting to seep out everywhere. And it's like the BBC reporting on something before it happened. That stuff is happening every single day. The obviousness of the cell phone video that someone's capturing and then the news shows something completely different, right? The truth is setting the mind free and it is permeating out in every area possible. And because of that, they're now stepping up the fear campaigns, which we're not listening to. You can see people are not buying it the same way anymore, right? They're pumping now the vaccines for children. Uh-oh. Mom and dad have realized that's not a good move for my 6-month-old baby. Canada, listen to this, man. Canada just said every 9 months you need another booster.
Oh,
so as
God,
a 40, I'm 42.
Yeah.
Average life expectancy in Canada is 82. I would need 52 more injections before I'm 82.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's so that this goes to this company. How do we name a company, right? If you got a company, I just want you to answer this question before I go to the next bit. If you're going to name your company, or if you have a company, what thought process did you go through when you named your company? Like my primary company is called Food Forest Abundance because that's the intention of the company is food forests everywhere equal freedom. Freedom from deforestation, freedom from mass extinction, freedom from disease, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, freedom from hunger, freedom from tyranny, right? This is a freaking demonstrable fact. So the name that we came up with together is Food Forest Abundance. All right, well, what about BlackRock? That's just not the name of the entity. That's the intention. Figure that one out for a second. And that's showable. It's demonstrable. You can see what they do. And I'll give you a couple of in-depth examples. Like we got Warren Buffett out there saying that he's going to donate his $97 billion. To who? Looks like he wants to give it to Bill Gates. So I put out a word, and here's another one, Warren Buffett. If you want to actually leave a legacy, which is what you say you want to do, I've got one for you. With $97 billion, you could build $1 million food forest education sites. Right now, a food forest, it doesn't cost. $1 million food forest education site will have a kiosk. It could even have some electronics, maybe just 1 or 2 solar panels. You could even have a composting bathroom out there. You could even, in some cases, you could have a well. You could have literally a system that could demonstrate. And then all around this system would be a food forest, a perennial edible landscape that would fill up like a whole city park or all the around the edges. You could take an acre. You could have an acre of incredible beauty. It'd be like the Garden of Eden with hundreds of different species of perennial and edible plants. You've got everything you need there to educate. Schools could come in there and people, and it would be used as a nursery, right? A nursery that people in the community could get free plants and seeds and starts to bring them to their homes. You could put these $1 million world-changing systems in 97,000 locations.
Wow.
You want to change the world, buddy?
Yeah.
That's how you change the world.
And something I heard yesterday, you recently spoke with Paul Chek, and I was listening to a show with Paul and a man named Zeus. Fascinating conversation. They talked about during the wars how there was a food crisis. So they started growing their own food, right? They had war gardens. And what plummeted alongside of food production at the local level on people's backyards? Disease. Disease plummeted for those 4 or 5 years. And then what happened as soon as the war was over and the factories and the processing and all the packaged foods and those things started coming back, trajectory changed again, sickness became prevalent, and food got further and further removed from where it's produced.
Yeah.
Again, translating into more poisons, more damage, sicker people, more money to be made in pharma.
That's exactly, I mean, it's so obvious, my friends.
Obvious.
And so the layers of BS, right? The layers of belief system that have been programmed into the minds of society, of humanity, regarding local regenerative food production, regarding using natural processes instead of poisons, are freaking profound, right? It's all we have to do to radically change the world is turn 50% of, like in America, we have like 44 million acres of lawn between the city parks and the suburban homes and everywhere. We turn half of that, right? Half of that, where I like some lawn, there's some really good function to lawn, right? I love playing football on the lawn. I love golfing. I love, the baseball fields and the soccer fields around the world. They're fantastic. Let's take the edges of those and half of our backyard lawns, and let's just grow food, perennial food that takes less maintenance than a lawn. People are like, oh, what are you talking about, less maintenance? Okay, let's take your favorite oak tree or birch tree or poplar or willow or elm. How much maintenance did you have to give that tree for it to thrive in your yard or in the neighbor's yard, right?
Basically zero.
Nature does the freaking maintenance.
Yeah.
Now, what if those plants were all food-producing plants, right? Along with willows and birch. In fact, the willow, I just learned this recently, you take the bark of a willow, you boil it down, and that's aspirin, right? It's free, and it doesn't have the chemicals in the processing, right? It was one of the first drugs that big pharma co-opted and corrupted and changed. And now instead of charging, having it be basically free for society, now it's $1 billion industry.
Yeah, there's so many of those solutions, right? Nature provides all the medicine. The simplicity is there. Bill Mollison's quote always stands out for me. Although the problems of the world are increasingly complex, the solutions remain embarrassingly simple. And I learned that from you. It's stuck with me. It's the one that made you cry. It's done the same for me. It's such a powerful message, especially today, right? Our world does seem so complex and the problems seem so complex. But the reality is, those solutions to get us out of this mess and chart a new course, one that is abundance, one that is vitality, full of health and glowing energy and radiation, of improved mindset, of love and light and cooperation amongst the people, of caring for one another instead of always putting people in these different boxes. Here's your label and your label and your label. No, we're all just humans who all want the same stuff, who are all growing in the same direction. We've been misguided.
Yes, we've been intentionally misguided.
Yeah.
And then once we adopt the awareness, the word choice is almost always misused. You had a choice and you made the wrong choice. That's not really how it happens. And this is one of the first presuppositions of an NLP is everybody always does. It's impossible to not do the best we can do based on the choices that we are aware of, right? And so you're in a particular situation and your mind is racing and all of a sudden you're like, okay, what's my best choice? Well, the best choice that will come to you according to your perception of reality is the choice that you choose. So how do we change the world? How do we catalyze this shift? By creating awareness of what's possible. That's what our whole thing is all about, is awareness that we can have the Garden of Eden. We can have pure joy and abundance everywhere simply by doing what's best for us as individuals. Holy shit. Are you kidding me? Like if I do what's best for me, which on a return on investment level, a food forest in your backyard is the ultimate ROI. It is pure joy. It's abundance. It's financial wealth. It's health. The odds of your family getting cancer when you have a food forest in your backyard and you go out and eat maybe one healthy meal a day, which by the way is practically free, right? You have to walk out and gather. You have to harvest it instead of harvesting from the grocery store with money and getting that stuff that lacks nutrient density. Now you're going out into your backyard and you're harvesting, where you've got infinitely more nutrient density, and better taste and everything good, right? So that's the awareness that we're helping to create throughout the world.
And all those climate change activists that are out there say we need to do certain stuff to save the climate. Well, hey, if you're growing your own food in your own backyard, you're no longer contributing to the amount of diesel being burned as we ship food all over the globe. You know, there's some crazy things that we do. It's completely illogical. For example, you know, producing something in Canada, shipping it over to China to have it be changed and then have it shipped back to here for us to consume. Like, it's just mind-boggling. And that stuff happens because of these free trade agreements that were put into place. You know, again, manipulation by the powers that be, and misleading us, misdirecting us. And we do it in so many ways. Canada, again, is a top producer in oil, top producer in lumber. But both of those two things, those are core ones I remember. Both of them, we don't do what we need to do with them here. We always send it somewhere else first.
Oh, God.
Then bring it back.
Yeah. It's radical. I mean, think of the expense, like just the financial expense when you don't have that vertical, when you're sending. I mean, how much does it cost to send freaking lumber? That's expensive, heavy stuff. You send that out, you send it back. Now we integrate and we make it so logical for these things to be local and not through government mandates, right? Mandates are part of the criminality of everything. Right? All these different things going on right now, these big battles that the Supreme Court has kind of been the impetus for and stuff. The idea that governmente is going to solve the problem is the false narrative, right? That's what they want. Problem, reaction, solution. They help create the problem. They help incite the violence by the entities that they own, which is the mainstream media, right? And people say, what do you mean the main? Yeah, JP Morgan and his crew, I was on a show with James Corbett. He did a private class on mass media. It was epically enlightening. JP Morgan got a group of the wealthiest people in the world, and they did a commission, or they did a little thing on finding out which were the most influential newspapers in the world. I think it was in the United States. It might have been in the world at that time. And they found that there was like 129 newspapers that had some influence. They bought 75 of them back in the day. Now, since then, they really own all of it, and they control all of it. Why did they buy those newspapers? To control the mind of the slave.
Yep. Yeah, control the messaging, right? Make sure that messaging is the same in every way on every one of those newspapers or every one of those news broadcasts. And once that is heard enough times, now, right, you start to internalize it and buy into that nonsense. And there's so many clips that you can see, especially around what we've just gone through with this pandemic, where people have gathered those clips from the different news channels and sequenced them all together. And it's literally dozens or hundreds of the same exact same words flowing out of every one of those broadcasters' mouths on all those different local channels, all the different places. It's so obvious, the manipulation. Yeah. And it's mind-boggling how people can't see it, but I also understand why they can't.
Yeah. Because of decades, a lifetime of programming through the mass media, right? And I've seen those clips. If anybody hasn't seen those, maybe we'll link one of those in the show notes, where it starts with one newscaster, like on Channel 5, Minneapolis, right? And they're saying this particular line that you recognize, if you know what's going on, as just insanity and bullshit. And then they go to number 2. Exact same line in San Francisco. Then they go 4, then they go 8. Then pretty soon the whole screen is filled with little freaking thumbnails of hundreds of different news outlets around the United States and around the world in different languages saying the same freaking thing. Yeah. Right? It's just the ultimate programming. And then you got these people who are living. And by the way, I do want to bring this up. It's so relevant. Fear is a vibrational experience. Everything we have is based in vibration. In fact, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, feel in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Right? When we can feel our energy and frequency, then we can have the awareness, and then the awareness will create the ability to choose, right? Without the awareness, we have no ability to choose. David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force, where he basically put a numerical scale to it to help it be easier to understand. And he talks about, the energy, the vibrational experience of humiliation and shame being right over death, right? People who are living in that experience, they have very low energy. They often can't get off the couch. They can't get out of bed. And if you're listening to this and you're having this experience, then, oh my gosh, we care for you. And this is what this is all about. It's to inspire, which is to inspirit, which is an energy raise, right? And then, you get to this level, maybe you're at humiliation, shame, and maybe you get to the level of anger, right? Anger is infinitely more powerful than humiliation and shame. Pride is more powerful than anger. And then, but they're still below the level of consciousness. They're still controlled emotional experiences. So then we get to this level of settling, of willingness, of faith, where you simply let go of the thoughts. Right? And I think this has been one of the most profound things for me in my life is no thoughts. And it took me a while. Practice, but it's a fun practice. It's the practice that leads to enlightenment, right? In other words, it's the practice that leads to a joyful life relative to a not joyful life. So it's the number one practice to start right now is just breathe and then set your intentions. And what helps is making lists of positive things, making lists of things that you love in the world. And if you're in this state of deep humiliation, deep shame, or deep anger, or any of those things, it might take a little bit more effort, but it's that effort. It's that first step, picking up the pen, picking up the paper, and ask yourself the question, what do I like about life, right? Even if there's a bunch of shit you hate and you can name all of that, it is the naming of all of that that keeps you where you are, right? So let go as best you can and start writing lists of things you like. And then ask the question, what do I love about that? Or what do I like about that? Start where you can start. And then continue to elevate the question, and that elevation raises the energy. And pretty soon you'll be off the couch. You'll turn off the programming, the mainstream media, TV, the television, their vision of a crazy society.
Television programming.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
The other simple thing to add on to that basics is get out in nature, walk, right? You don't have to be running. You don't have to do something simple. Just start walking a little bit, even if it's walk to the end of your driveway and walk back. And then the next day you walk 2 steps past the end of your driveway and walk back. And then it's 10 steps. And before you know it, the energy in you has changed. The vibration has changed. You've raised it. You feel better. That emotional guidance system begins to make a turn and moves you to a better place, which then compounds on itself. Right? Those small, simple daily wins are such a massive key. And I can tie it back to my experience in the health and fitness arena. And it was so critical to get someone just a small victory. And first I did it in the gym, and the gym was a very impactful place. But then I came across a simple meal replacement tool. And it wasn't about the meal replacement shake, but because the meal replacement shake was so simple for someone to do, right? They put a couple scoops in a shaker cup, some water, shake it and drink it. That made them start to do one thing that helped them feel just a little bit better. And after doing that for a couple days, maybe they started to have a shake and an apple. Yeah. And then a couple days later, it's a shake and an apple and a salad. And then a couple days later, it's a shake, an apple, a salad, and a little bit of a walk. And right? And those little victories with some simple beginning action that made that, it was the trigger, right? It was the catalyst to make that movement. And it's the same as what any of us are going through right now, as they're struggling internally with maybe some of the darker thoughts or some negative energy, whatever that is. One simple thing each day, compounding over time. You'll look back 3 months from now and go, how was I in such a low place? Because it's so really easy and simple to get yourself out of it with just that one small change.
Oh gosh. And we've all been in low places, my friends. I mean, my story is I went through a period of focusing on the problem. And so many people around the world, a lot of my good dear friends and family who I love are waking up right now. And the process of waking up, right? Cognitive dissonance is when we have competing thought processes in our minds, in our hearts, in our souls that don't make sense. Right? Okay, the government is good and they're out to protect us. That's the story that we hear with their $1 trillion budgets, right? Or wait a minute, a free mind is better. Enlightenment is better. And then this is the truth of the matter. Well, when you have these two competing belief systems, it's stressful. And when I first heard this in 2007, I laughed at the people that told me. I said, "Oh, you're freaking crazy," right? I said, but I said it with a smile, and I pride myself on being open-minded. Right? They said, "Jim, are you open-minded? Then go watch this video." And I love stuff like that, right? Sure. Usually it's so I can kind of go, "Oh gosh, yeah, they're crazy." I watched it and I realized I was the crazy one. And then I went down. I had a lot of time and energy, and I went down this rabbit hole for 2 freaking years. And that's when I read the Bill Mollison quote, "Embarrassingly simple," right? The solutions are embarrassingly simple. I started to bawl. And then I got to a level, right? It's a levels thing. And This is what David Hawkins in Power versus Force talks about a lot. It's levels, right? Consciousness is an experience of leveling up by finding that new tweak, right? About, okay, how do I get to the next level of vibration? And that's the game we're in. Right. And that's to win the game, enlightenment, right? Or the Garden of Eden. And what comes first, the Garden of Eden or enlightenment? Well, it's like the chicken or the egg. They really help each other, right? When we become more aware, which is enlightenment, then we obviously take steps towards our own freedom. We become self-reliant as opposed to governmente reliant, right? And then if you have a food forest, the food forest we've got at Gulf's Landing, I'm smiling just thinking about it, right? Standing in it, I look around and I see abundance everywhere, and the butterflies and the bees and the birds and the wasps and all this different magical life. I'm like, it is the catalyst for a mindset of the Garden of Eden, of enlightenment. So that's why it's so important to go back and forth and see how these things perfectly integrate.
Yeah. You see, simple analogies like the headlights or walking with a candle, right? How you can't see very far, but the fact that they're there showing that you can go just that little bit farther is what gets you to the end of that journey. Life is a journey. Life is taken with that single step, and always realizing that one additional step forward gets you that much further on this path, on the journey. So for anybody, as Jim's already mentioned, if you're not in a great place, don't sweat that. Get out of that. And you are the one who can control it. We are here to help. We'll do it by bringing you the best content, the best people, the best resources we possibly can find to help inspire. But it's up to you to take that first step, right? I have an incredible quote that I always remember from a man named Coach Dale Brown, one of the winningest coaches in NCAA history, a legend in his own right. And he said, there's something really profound, and again, extremely simple. If you're looking for a hand, look at the end of your arm. And when you find that hand there, you'll realize that you can put it out for other people to help pull you forward, but it starts with you. It starts with you taking that simple daily step. Yeah. Something small, doesn't need to be huge. You have to realize and acknowledge you're doing the best you can at the time with the resources you have. You have to get that awareness going, right? Pay attention to what the thoughts are in your brain. Don't just run on that silent program over and over all day, every day. Start catching yourself. What am I thinking about? What am I thinking about? And as you catch it, shift it. Small shift, consistently compounds, makes the dramatic change in your life. And it starts today. It starts today for all of you.
In this present moment, the gift from source, the gift from God is the present. All of this language that a lot of times the word, in the beginning, there was the word, right? What does that mean? Well, I like thinking about stuff like that. Well, if there was a particular consistent vibration in the beginning, a word was a separate thing from that. right? And it became the Big Bang, an explosion of something new, right? And so the words we choose, or the words that we become aware of, and then we choose through that awareness, are literally the creators of our life. Every new word is a new concept. It's a new layer of life. I even look at, when you walk outside, don't call something a tree for a while, or a bush, or don't say this is a raspberry bush, this is a apple tree, or this is an oak tree, right? Step back from the word. The word that names things separates us from the epicness of the thing that we're labeling, right? Step back from the word and take a deep breath and just observe without the words. Observe in a feeling connection type of way, and you'll see a different reality. You'll see a connection, and for me, and actually this is funny because I've had people on our team, like designers, who heard me talk about mushrooms, psilocybin. And they're like, oh, I can't work with Jim Gale because he's a druggie. He's into mushrooms. Like, yeah, I'm a crazy person. These amazing God-given, nature source-given plants are the catalyst for new levels of connection and awareness, right? Taken consciously. It's not, I don't ever take mushrooms and go party, right?
Yeah.
I take mushrooms
intentionally,
yeah, with the intention of sitting in nature and being connected at a deeper level, my friends. And in fact, there's a lot of theories out there that are very well supported that mushrooms were the catalyst of the evolution of the human brain and of humanity. And I know that to be true. My wife and I, we were having struggles about 7 or 8 years ago when we were still in Costa Rica. And that's when we went and did an ayahuasca ceremony, 2 days in the jungles of southern Costa Rica. And it was an absolute life changer. Andrea, my wife, was very scared of dying, and we had a little girl, Isabella, and Andrea had this fear that if something happened to her, she would be leaving us, and just a general fear of dying. And during this experience, she was attacked and killed multiple times by a black jaguar the size of a bull. And the first couple of times, it was very scary. And then all of a sudden, she just looked and laughed, and guess what? The experience ended. That was the end of it. It's the lesson that's taught to us by these entheogenic concoctions, right? Entheogenic. They create the feeling, the experience of being connected to source in such a way that the transference of knowledge through those experiences is life benefiting to the max.
Oh, it's so remarkable. The thing you brought up there about the words and the words that we use, that's something that's always stood out for me too. Robert Kiyosaki talks about roughly 5 million English words, and average people have command of about 5,000 of those words. And the words that you choose to use create your reality, right? And I still work every day at ensuring my choices are better. And I've learned a tremendous amount from you. I notice how you like to you'll pause and be very careful on the selection of words that are going to flow from you. I've noticed that with another mentor of mine, Nick Sarnicola. He was always very intentional about the words that came out of his mouth. And I really am now in that practice too, where I consciously listen to myself as I speak. I'm good with taking my time, working to find the right word to say at the right time so I can more clearly express myself and get a message out. And also paying attention to what I say when I'm not being in that way so that I can catch, that wasn't the right thing, or I'm saying something that really isn't in line with what I'm saying, or I said it because of something I'm feeling inside and, oh my God, I need to change something about that because that thing just showed up, yes. Right? So there's so many awareness opportunities for personal growth as you begin to go down this, path. For me, NLP, same with you, taking those courses really helped me become aware of what do I think about? What do I talk about? What do I talk about to myself when I'm not speaking out loud, right? That voice in our heads that literally is talking all day, every day while we're awake. Most people never pay attention to that voice, right? It just does it. It just runs the program. But as you become aware of it, who gets to control it? You do, right? You get to choose what are the words that voice is saying to you now. And it's one of those things where you go through your whole life having that one most important conversation, right? That's the one that you have all of the time. So what is important to become aware of is, what do you say to yourself in those conversations? What are you saying? Most people are saying absolute trash. And here's a good way to reflect on it. Imagine your friend talked to you that way. Would you be friends?
That's
or
awesome.
or your wife or your husband? Would you be with that person if they spoke to you in that way? And the answer most of the time is absolutely not.
Yeah.
But we let ourselves do it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right. And that is exactly the same process as becoming self-aware, enlightenment. Right. And then what is the other form of governmente? Well, the churches around the world. The word religion. Okay. Look up legion. It's the Roman army. Right. Most people aren't aware that a legion is a Roman army, right? To religion is to join the Roman army, to become part of the Roman army. Now, what the heck is going on with these words? It's so fascinating to me.
It is.
And then so you've got the governmente, which controls, the society from their perspective. Then you've got the keys to heaven. You cannot get into heaven unless you do exactly what we tell you to do, unless you follow our rules. Now, I am a big fan of the cheap teachings of Jesus and of the prophets, right? And to be aware of the half-truth, right? We take the good and then we circle that around the bad. And that's what the wicked do. They prop up somebody and they say, this is what this person said. And then they say, and this is what this person meant. And this is why you have to give us all sorts of money. If the church spent 1% of its energy actually doing what we're talking about, and that is putting food for us all over the place. And by the way, if you're part of the church, this is not meant to shame. This is meant to inspire, to inspirit you, to create enthusiasm for you to take the next logical step that will benefit you, your church community, and the world. If the church spent 1% of its energy, we could have the Garden of Eden everywhere within a very short amount of time, right? This idea that the keys to heaven are controlled by going through a particular entity, that's a scam, my friends. This idea that the Garden of Eden is a utopian fantasy, that's a scam, my friends. This idea that only one person per religion can be enlightened, that's a scam, my friends. That's the mind control of these entities that control the minds of the slaves, right? And then they take this vast wealth of resources. They don't pay taxes, which I think that's a good thing. Taxation is theft. Taxation is slavery. At the point of a gun, I'm made to give up some of the product of my labor in a way that if I don't, I go to frickin' jail or I lose my property or my life in some way. That's slavery. That's absolutely slavery. The difference is we weren't aware that it was slavery because we were told a program, a false narrative.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
What?
This has been an incredible episode number 1.
Yes.
We're over an hour into this, and I think we both have other meetings to get to.
I love it. Let's change the world, brother. Oh man.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening out there, this is number 1. We are going to bring you so much value to the best of our ability, to the best of our very rapidly growing empowerment, enthusiasm, inspired kind of mission that we're on, right? So we'd like you to share this show. Tell everybody you know about it. And we're going to continuously bring you details on how you can raise up your energy and create local, starting with yourself, and then your family, and then your community, self-reliance and abundance. It's time now that we come together and compete against evil, right? Collaborate and we win. We don't collaborate and we lose, all right? So let's have fun creating abundance for ourselves.
Yeah, we get to every day focus our attention on creating a world of abundance and love and joy. And we're going to do it. We're going to lead the way. You and I and all of the people out there who have made this decision already. And there are tens of millions of us. And we're going to gather more every day. We're going to inspire that shift. We're going to be celebrating here as we bring this enlightenment to all of us and create the world of abundance we all know we deserve.
We are the white hats. We are the Messiah, my friends. Let's change the world. One family food forest, one light mente at a time. Love y'all. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on the inaugural episode of the Jim Gale Show.
With Matthew Britt.
So awesome to be here. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for tuning into the show. You can check out more episodes on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and your favorite podcast apps. Check out our show notes for any websites linked to this episode, including where to connect with us on social media.
We appreciate you dropping by today. Remember to like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you'll be updated with each episode.
And visit us at thejimgaleshow.com to check out all of our exclusive content. We appreciate you dropping by.